Today's lesson is Discovering Dublin, St. Patrick's Day and Beyond. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Mike.
We are traveling to Ireland in today's program. More specifically, we're going to the city of Dublin. That is the largest city and the capital city of the Republic of Ireland. We're not talking about Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, and I think the city of Belfast is the capital there. But maybe you might have some time to head up there. But we're going to spend most of our time in Dublin in today's program and in our next program as well.
Absolutely. Dublin is a beautiful city. A lot of people love to go there. Not the biggest place in the world, so a good place to be a tourist. You can probably see a lot of things in Dublin in just a couple of days. Of course, they have the famous Trinity College, one of the oldest universities in the world. You'll see lots of wonderful statues of some of the great writers from Irish history, people like James Joyce. They might have an Oscar Wilde somewhere around. And the Guinness Brewery. A lot of people love that dark black ale that's famously made in Dublin, Ireland, and the Guinness Brewery is there. And I believe I saw something recently. It is the most popular tourist attraction in Dublin. So it's not a museum. It's not a university. It's not one of the other cultural treasures that they have. It's actually the brewery, although you can really call the brewery a cultural treasure. They have tours, and of course you can wrap it all up with a delicious pint of the dark malty goodness that is Guinness beer, of course. So we're going to be finding out all about that and much, much more as we look at discovering Dublin, St. Patrick's Day and beyond. Discovering Dublin, St. Patrick's Day and beyond. Each March, huge crowds of people flock to Dublin, the Republic of Ireland's capital, to enjoy lively St. Patrick's Day festivities. The popular holiday is perhaps the perfect time to explore the city's many and varied charms.
大家好，第一部分介绍名词 festivity， 它的意思是庆祝活动。例如 The festivities at the local temple were loud and colorful. 当地寺庙的庆祝活动喧闹又丰富多彩。或者 New Year festivities vary from country to country. 新年庆祝活动因国家而异。
Okay, we begin the first paragraph of our lesson today. It says, Each March, huge crowds of people flock to Dublin, the Republic of Ireland's capital, to enjoy lively St. Patrick's Day festivities. Hey, what a coincidence. St. Patrick's Day is today. It's the 17th of March. And yes, indeed, lots of people go to Dublin to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. And again, that is a holiday in Ireland. It's also a holiday in the United States and other countries that have large Irish populations. I remember when I was going to school, we were all supposed to wear green if we were Irish to school on that particular day. I'm not really sure of my own ancestry. Maybe my grandmother had some Irish blood or something like that, but I'm not really sure. But in any case, the best place to celebrate St. Patrick's Day would indeed be Dublin, Ireland.
Absolutely, yes. Dublin is, of course, the capital of Ireland, and St. Patrick is the patron saint, so why not? I think actually the festivities in New York and Chicago would actually be a little bit bigger, St. Patrick's Day being much more important traditionally for Americans with Irish roots than the actual Irish people themselves. I think until Americans started to come there and, expect to see some of these festivities or St. Patrick's Day celebrations, most people in Dublin would have just gone to church for St. Patrick's Day, it being mainly a religious festival in Ireland. But yes, a lot of people with Irish roots ended up moving to America. They go back to Ireland to sort of revisit the homeland of their ancestors. And so the Irish authorities, being smart people and knowing a good thing when it comes along, decided to sort of cater to the tourists and have a lot of these festivities or celebrations. So we're going to have marches and parades. There'll be all sorts of wonderful music and green decorations all over the place, and many people will be lifting a couple of pints of Irish beer, I'm sure. It says the popular holiday is perhaps the perfect time to explore the city's many and varied charms. It would be a very lively and boisterous time to be there. Maybe a little bit more expensive than normal with all the tourists arriving in town around the same time of year, but definitely would be different from visiting it at other times of the year. So let's find out what we could be enjoying if we do get to Ireland at this time next year. I guess it's too late to go this year since it is St. Patrick's Day. So
well, maybe there's some live streaming going on.
Oh, that's
now
possible too. Or we can use this as inspiration to plan next year's holiday to go there for March 17th in 2026. Let's check out the next paragraph.
Among the city's top attractions is Dublin Castle. Previously the site of a Viking fort, the castle has been a seat of power for centuries. Over time, it has undergone many transformations, and its Gothic interiors may even have inspired the author of Dracula, Bram Stoker, during his time working there. Meanwhile, those seeking wilder sights can visit Phoenix Park, the world's second largest urban park. Home to both free-range deer and Dublin Zoo, the park is an ideal place for a relaxing day out.
第二部分看到名词 attraction， 表示景点或是具吸引力的地方或事物。例如 Disneyland has many fun attractions. 迪士尼乐园有许多好玩的景点。或是 I did not have time to visit all of the attractions in São Paulo. 我没时间参观圣保罗所有的景点。再来看到名词 site， 它的意思是旧址、地点或是场所。例如 This is the site of my old house. 这个是我旧房子的所在地。也可以说 Emergency crews are on their way to the crash site. 紧急救援小组正前往坠机地点。继续介绍名词 fort， 表示堡垒或是要塞。可以说 Barry was eager to explore the high walls and hidden passages of the abandoned fort. Barry 渴望探索这座废弃堡垒的高墙和隐藏通道。又或者说 The soldiers built a fort to keep enemies out. 士兵们建立了一个堡垒来防止敌人入侵。接着看到 undergo 这个单字，它是动词，它的意思是经历、接受或是遭受。例如 The house will undergo a makeover to improve its conditions. 这间屋子将进行大改造，以改善其状态。再看一个例子 The soldiers were forced to undergo a grueling training program. 士兵们被迫接受一个艰苦的训练计划。后面介绍名词 transformation， 指的是转变或是变化。举例来说 The transformation of this neighborhood has caused housing prices to soar. 这个社区的转变导致房价飙升。又或者说 After the transformation, the old factory became an apartment building. 改造后，该旧厂房变成了公寓。
Okay, so we're going to talk about things you can see and do in Dublin, Ireland. Among the city's top attractions is Dublin Castle. Okay, so of course, when you travel to a certain place, you want to check out the various attractions. An attraction is something that attracts people. To attract means to bring them closer to you. And so, of course, lots of cities have different kinds of tourist attractions. Like here in Taipei, many tourist attractions, or at least in Taiwan, would be Taroko Gorge or Kending or the National Palace Museum or Taipei 101, the Presidential Palace, etc. Those are all tourist attractions. Lots of people want to check those things out. But if you're in Dublin, you might be thinking, what should I go see? What should I go take pictures of? Where should I bring my family? And the top attraction in Dublin is Dublin Castle. Yes, Europe and the UK and various places there have these castles all over the place that people love to check out.
Yes, definitely. A lot of European castles are big draws for people from parts of the world like Taiwan or America, where we don't have so many castles. It says previously the site of a Viking fort. The castle has been a seat of power for centuries. So castles are often built on very strategic places, geographically on the top of a hill, near a river mouth or something like that to protect the land from invaders or to give the people in the castle an advantage over attackers if they're trying to take over the castle. So going back in history long before the large stone castle, which we would see today, there would have been a Viking fort. It's the site or location of a Viking fort. And when we say site in this case, notice it's S-I-T-E, not S-I-G-H-T, like the ability to see. If you have sight, it means you can see things. This, though, notice the different spelling. That's just a place where something is, often where something was constructed or something is located. Taipei 101, the site of that is in sort of eastern Taipei, in the Warner Village, Taipei 101 City Hall area. That's the site, that's the location of it. This was the location of a Viking fort. So way back in the Dark Ages, Vikings from Scandinavia, Norway mainly, were coming across the North Sea and invading Scotland, England, and made it all the way around the British Isles to Ireland and settled there apparently because they built a fort, which is similar to a castle, but a simpler structure, often made of stone or wood, possibly even, because this is a very long time ago. But they also had a castle there thousands of years ago. And the castle and this location has been a seat of power for centuries. Where the government sits, where the leaders live, reside, and rule from is the seat of power, Washington. Of course, the White House is the seat of power in Washington, although you could include some of the other big government buildings like the House of Representatives. But basically, that's where the leaders and rulers of the country can be found and live and do their work.
Right, so there was a fort there. Of course, that's short for fortification, something for the military to have your army and your armed forces.
Or fortress, too.
Right, they're usually on high ground, and of course, they are there to protect the place from invaders if somebody tries to come in. Now, over time, it has undergone many transformations, and its Gothic interiors may even have inspired the author of Dracula, Bram Stoker, during his time working there.
Of course, he was Irish too, yeah.
Oh, I guess he was, okay. So over time, over a period of time, this particular castle has undergone or has had lots of transformations, lots of changes. Maybe it's been remodeled or rebuilt over time, and it's got these Gothic interiors. And those Gothic interiors may have inspired the author Bram Stoker during his time there to write the novel Dracula, which is about the vampire there. Okay, so we've got this Gothic architecture that is very common in various parts of Europe. It's Gotische in Chinese. I could describe Gothic architecture, but if you see pictures of it, you'll know exactly what it is. It's quite ornate, I guess, and of course there are lots of Gothic cathedrals all over Europe. And yes, if you see this castle, you might think, oh, it's no wonder that Bram Stoker became inspired to write Dracula after seeing this castle, because it does look kind of like a spooky castle where a vampire would live.
Absolutely, yeah, that style. I think Notre Dame in Paris, that famous church there on the island in the middle of Paris where they had that terrible fire a few years ago, that's another good example of Gothic architecture, medieval architecture. That's the time when Gothic was popular. So yes, Bram Stoker looking for spooky locations to have Dracula, Count Dracula, this evil nobleman who drinks the blood of his victims because he's a vampire. That looks like a style of place for him to live in those stories. And of course, that's been thrilling and chilling audiences ever since the 1800s when Bram Stoker wrote that book. Meanwhile, those seeking wilder sights can visit Phoenix Park,
the world's second largest urban park.
So again, if you're into wilder places, maybe if you want to get close to nature, trees, birds, and stuff like that, this park might be for you. It says, home to both free-range deer and Dublin Zoo, the park is an ideal place for a relaxing day out.
Sounds great.
That sounds kind of like Nara in Japan. They've got free-range deer where you can go feed the deer and go see some temples there if you're in Nara in Japan. But if you're in Ireland, hey, they've got deer roaming all over the place there too. They probably have people selling little cakes that you can feed to the deer, and the deer are probably very spoiled and they're used to getting food from tourists. So yeah, that will give you lots of photo opportunities to see the free-range deer, the deer that are just wandering around. They're wild, they're not controlled by anybody. And then we've got a zoo there where you can see animals that are captive in cages or enclosures. And yes, indeed, it's a good place for a relaxing day out. And yes, sometimes when you see museums and buildings and stuff like that, you just want a little piece of nature.
Absolutely. But I think in the month of March, having weather for picnic in the park might be a little bit of a stretch. You might want to wait until June or July to have your picnic in Phoenix Park. But you're right, spending a day walking around sounds absolutely wonderful. All right, so now we've seen some cultural stuff and gotten a bit of fresh air in the park. What do you say we do some damage to our credit cards? Time for shopping in the third and final part of today's article.
After exploring the sites, you may want to seek out some snacks and souvenirs. One of the city's principal shopping quarters sits just south of the River Liffey. Big brands can be found on Grafton Street. For something more unique, head to Georgia Street Arcade, a charming Victorian market filled with independent stores and eateries. And as the day fades away, step into one of the city's hundreds of pubs to catch a bit of live Irish music.
第三部分看到名词 souvenir， 表示纪念品或是伴手礼。例如 This shirt is a souvenir from my trip to London. 这件衬衫是我去伦敦旅行的纪念品。也可以说 I bought souvenirs for friends when I was on vacation. 我度假时买了纪念品给朋友。最后看到 eatery 这个单字，它是名词，表示餐馆或是饭馆。我们可以说The small eatery had just a few tables and a simple menu. 这家小餐馆只有几张桌子和一份简易的菜单。最后一个例子 The eatery's outdoor seating offers a great view of the park. 这家餐馆的户外座位提供了公园的美景。
Okay, so remember when you travel to a certain location, you do want to check out the sites, you want to enjoy the attractions, but after exploring the sites, you may want to seek out some snacks and souvenirs, some things to help you remember your trip by, little figurines or ornaments or whatever, maybe a postcard or something like that. Yeah, you can check out some souvenirs. You've been to Dublin before, right, Mike? What sort of souvenirs did you buy when you went there?
Oh, gosh, it was many, many years ago. Actually, my wife and I, we have a fridge magnet collection. So we'll go to places and buy those little magnets that you stick on your fridge door. And we try to find the ugliest one from any location that we're in. So we have an ugly fridge magnet combination. So I would be looking for maybe something with a little Irish leprechaun holding a bottle of Guinness or something like that. And if his eyes move around or if there's like changing colors on it or something really, really in bad taste, that's exactly what I would be going for.
Indeed. So yeah, you'll probably not know what kind of souvenirs they have.
No, I would be very interested. But I imagine there would be a lot of green.
Yeah, I would imagine green is kind of the characteristic color of Ireland.
Yeah.
And one of the city's principal shopping quarters or areas sits just south of the River Liffey. And big brands can be found on Grafton Street. Grafton Street, okay? So yes, indeed, you can go shopping for Louis Vuitton or whatever. They've got the main brands there on Grafton Street. You might get a special price for stuff like that. And for something more unique or something more special, head to George's Street Arcade, a charming Victorian market filled with independent stores and eateries. Now, here we've got the word arcade. To me, that's just kind of an enclosed place where the sidewalk is covered by arches or buildings.
Kind of a covered shopping area.
Technically, here in Taiwan, we've got arcades, the sidewalks that go next to stores, but then there's part of the building above you, so you're actually protected from the rain and the sun. That's what an arcade would be. It could also be a place where you have lots of video games or other kinds of entertainment, like a video arcade in the old days. I don't know if they really have them anymore, but you could go there and play pool or video games or whatever. But this is a place, maybe some sort of a bazaar or a plaza or something that is a place with old architecture, Victorian architecture, and it's filled with independent stores and eateries. So Victorian refers to the era of Queen Victoria back in the 19th century, and an eatery is just a place where you go to get something to eat.
There you go. So you can walk around there. A little bit of a trip back in time with that lovely architecture from the Victorian times, from as Roger said, the sort of mid to late 1800s, and great places for shopping and snacking. Take a break, have a little bite to eat, hit the path again in the arcade and buy some more stuff. And it says, and as the day fades away, as the sun slowly sets, step into one of the city's hundreds of pubs to catch a bit of live Irish music. Yes, you probably don't have to walk far in Dublin to run into a pub. There are hundreds of them, and of course Guinness being the famous beer, but also they have wonderful Irish whiskey and probably a lot of really good live music played on guitars and drums and little pipes and things like that, so you can have a grand old time. And we will actually be having a grand old time tomorrow as we learn more about Ireland and Dublin specifically, and we actually get to have a really good crack in Ireland. So come back and join us for that.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第二部分有介绍都柏林城堡这个景点。数个世纪以来，它一直是权力的中心。那随着时间过去，历经了许多转变。文中用到这个 a seat of power， 它指的是权力所在地。seat 在这边它是指所在地或是活动中心。好，那另外文中还用到 transformation 这个名词来指转变变化，它的动词是 transform。那我们来学它的字首字根。先看到 form 这个字根，它表示形式、形状或者是塑形、使成型。在 transform 这个字当中，它的字首 trans 这部分表示穿越或转变， form 表示形状、形式，合在一起 transform 它就可以表达使转变、转换或者是有改变、改造的意思。那顺便补充几个相同字根的单字，第一个是 uniform， 它的字首 uni 表示单一， form 是形状，那么 uniform 当形容词可以用来表达一致的、不变的，那么当名词就表示制服。第二个补充的是 perform， 它的字首 per 有完全的意思， form 是形状。那同学们可以试着联想，当我们把某事的这个形状样貌完全呈现出来，完全表现出来，就不难联想到 perform 它具有执行、履行、完成，或者是也有表演、演出的意思。第三个补充的是 conform， 它的字首 con 有共同的意思， form 是形式。那当每个人做事情都是依照相同的形式，按照共同的规范，那就可以联想到 conform 它有遵守、配合或是符合的意思。课文介绍完了都柏林城堡，接着他提到 Meanwhile, those seeking wilder sights can visit Phoenix Park。 同时那些寻找较为天然的景色的人可以造访凤凰公园。那句子里面用到 those seeking 什么什么来表达那些寻找什么什么的人。我们来学习这个用法。首先 those who 加动词是表达凡是怎么样的人，那些怎么样怎么样的人，其中的 those 就是指 those people 那些人，那后面再接一个 who 引导的关系子句来修饰这个先行词 those， 就可以表达出那些怎么样的人，凡是怎么样的人。特别注意关系子句里面动词要用复数动词，像 those who are interested 那些感兴趣的人， those who like the book 喜欢那本书的人等等。好，那么接着 those who 加动词可以简化成 those 加分词 VING 或 PP， 也就是说我们把这个关系代名词 who 省略了，然后把它后方的动词改成分词。如果动词本来是主动，我们就用现在分词，是被动就用过去分词。就像文中的 those seeking， 它是由 those who seek 简化而来的。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Attraction. The new park is a major attraction for families. Site. During our trip, we visited the site where the old castle once stood. Fort. They built a small fort to protect the town from attacks. Undergo. Tom had to undergo an operation because of his leg injury. Transformation. The movie shows the hero's transformation from a shy boy to a confident leader. Souvenir. Tourists often take home souvenirs like t-shirts and postcards. Eatery. At the end of the road is the eatery you're looking for.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.